Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
Happy to welcome everyone who connected today. Welcome from Munich. Welcome from the InsurTech vertical of Plug and Play. So today is going to be our first innovation day for our Batch 9 program. The topic is going to be about the future of work in the digital world. I'm very excited to be moderating this today and to welcome every one of you with my dear colleague Hissan. Hissan is a ventures associate here as well at InsurTech, as well in Munich, as well as in Plug and Play. And I'm a ventures analyst. So welcome everyone. Welcome, just waiting for another person to come. So if we go through the agenda of our event today, we organized this event around a very interesting fireside chat that Hissan is going to host with Philippe Berger, who is from Deloitte and our industry expert. And then we're going to have 6 pitches from startups that are from the topic employee engagement and continuous learning, data security, and collaboration. It's going to be very interesting. And then we will finish the event and hopefully see you guys again afterwards. So thank you for all the startups that joined us today. We have 6 startups who are VRdirect, Philippe App, QuantiCor, Craftguide, Aucta, and Vispa. All of these startups today come from the DACH region. This was a deliberate choice of us at Plug and Play today because we wanted to show how the DACH region was taking part in creating a new way to bring the work into the digital sphere. But first of all, a little bit of an instruction for our audience. So after each pitch, you are going to have a little Zoom poll asking whether or not you'd like to get in touch with the startup, and you answer yes or no, depending on whether or not the startup and the pitch of the startup was enticing to you. And if you answer yes, here at Plug and Play, we'll be very looking forward to introduce you to them after our event. And of course, this is a virtual event, so we are trying to make it as active and participative as possible, as energetic as possible. So be dynamic if you want to be, ask your questions in the Q&A feature within the Zoom, and we'll address them after each pitch for a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes, depending on how many questions and depending on whether or not we have the time for this. But before we go to our fireside chat with Hissan and Philippe, I just want to introduce very quickly what Plug and Play does, who are we, why are we doing this event. So our mission here at Plug and Play is to help the world progress through innovation and connection. And this is because we believe that the symbiosis between innovation and connection is the best way to help big corporations to progress, help small startups to progress, and actually help the well-being of society as a whole to progress through impactful activities. And to do that, we actually position ourselves as an innovation platform. And we have 3 main activities and main pillars. And one of the first one is it's an accelerator, it's an innovator program. So we run over 60 industry-focused innovation or accelerator programs in over 40 cities globally. And we can do that because we actually cover 18 different verticals. So here in Munich, we cover the InsurTech vertical, the healthcare, and the brand and retail vertical, but you can also see FinTech in Paris, etc. And this is because our programs have such a geographically global footprint because we actually are present in more than 40 offices worldwide. Already just the InsurTech vertical is present in 5 locations, Silicon Valley, of course, because that's our headquarters, then Munich, where Hissan and I are, and then we also are represented within the Asian continent with Beijing, Tokyo, and Singapore as being our offices. Our second main pillar is the corporate innovation. And this is where we supercharge. It's a bit of a plug and play word. The innovation of over 530 corporate partners globally by either keeping them up with market trends, making reports for them, or introducing them to our handpicked startups that have the relevant solutions for their pain points. So here you can see that we have 13 very prestigious partners within the Munich InsurTech vertical, but globally we have around 80 InsurTech corporate partners, and the family keeps growing. And last but not least, we have our third main pillar, which is the venture capital pillar. This is also what Hissa and I do on the ventures team for most of our time. We invest in over 250 companies a year. We actually right now have 1,300 portfolio companies, from which we have 31 unicorn companies. You may or may not recognize a few names: PayPal, N26, Hippo, etc. So if there's one thing I'd like to have you guys take away from what is plug and play, it's a turnkey infrastructure for startups and corporations to thrive in a collaborative way and work together for impactful activities and for the future. So now we'll have our fireside chat with Hissan and Philippe. So Hissan, I leave the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Kim. Before I jump into the fireside chat, I welcome everybody who is present with us today. So for the fireside side chat, we have Philippe Berger, who is the partner for Global Workforce Transformation Practice at Deloitte. Philippe, we are very happy to have you with us. And maybe before we jump into the fireside chat of the question and answer, maybe you give the audience a little bit brief introduction about yourself.
Okay, well, for sure. Thank you very much for having me on board. Quick intro, Philippe Berger. I've been working in consulting for almost 30 years. I'm leading the global workforce transformation practice for Deloitte. And as you can hear, I'm French, even though more and more global those days, like many of us.
Sounds good. So Philippe, let me jump straight away into the first question, which we all, I think, have from corporates, from startups. We are seeing that COVID-19 was a big push when it comes to the digitalization or finding new ways of transformation in global workforce. So what is your take on that? How do you see this?
Yeah, that has been quite an interesting change or crisis, because as opposed to the past crisis that we've experienced, this hasn't made a shift as such as an acceleration. Basically, what all the trends that were identified pre-COVID simply went faster and faster into action, into motion. When we think about the changes that the COVID made, we try to analyze that in terms of new way of working or workplace on three topics. The first is on work, the second is on the workforce itself, and the third on the workplace. On the work, basically, the idea is that we have massive changes in the skills requirements, the skills that are required today, the skills that are required tomorrow, but also on the way we do work, how it is designed, how it's better integrates technology. So that's the first dimension of the change that we've experienced. The second dimension of the changes that we've experienced is around the workplace, the environment, the way people collaborate. Today is a very good example. We are all working from various places, all collaborating. So if we come to the office, what it is for, how, what do we want to do, what makes our work effective remotely or in the physical world. And the third dimension about the workforce, it's really, what is the structure of the workforce we want to use today and tomorrow? How can I use alternative workforce? How can I use gig workers? How do I integrate them better? It's really a shift for organization, the way they were doing things and the way they will in the future.
So this brings me now to a question, because a lot of our corporate partners we work with, they saw this shift coming, and not all of them were fast enough to adapt to deal with those digital technologies or digital frameworks. So when you are as representing Deloitte, when you are consulting to big corporates, what is your major advice for them to have more digital transformation for the forces? And also then maybe if you can touch a little bit on the startup side, that what would be your advice to them?
Okay, so sounds good. I think we are all aware that as human beings, we are adverse to change. It's really a risk-reward kind of approach, and we tend to underweight the upside, the potential reward, as opposed to the immediate risk that making a shift would lead us to. So for all these reasons, it's difficult for us to move. So really, the very first step, or the start I would recommend working, is enabling people to understand the rationale for change. So to your point, there is a need for agility, but when you are saying that, why is there that need for agility? A good approach is quite often to introduce the fact that back 30, 40, 50 years ago, big was beautiful. So if you were a big player in your industry, somehow you would take a winning stake for many decades. And if you have a look at the Fortune 500, for example, the way it was made up, about 50, 60 years ago, when you were in the Fortune 500, you would stay in it for 40 or 50 years, which is an awfully long time for any organization or any incumbent. Nowadays, if you are into that index, your lifespan is probably 1/3 of that, 10, 15 years. And we expect that probably half of those companies that are currently the Fortune 500 will exit in the next decade or so. So things are changing fast. So how can I make people understand at all levels of the organization that there is a need to change? The need for agility is really the capacity to adapt. Typically, what we start explaining is that the issues that we are facing in terms of workforce, work transformation, probably have three main factors. The first one is obviously the technology. You're here to talk about that. But the first driver is that the pricing in technology has been dropping dramatically. And at the same time, the capabilities has been rocket high. So this is transforming a lot, and I'll come back to that. The second aspect is really the fact that we've got a scarcity of talent. Anywhere on the globe, we are less and less manpower. We have seen that, and this is the major topic from CEOs around the world. In the last survey that we did, between 60 to 70% of CEOs say that the major issue that they are seeing on their strategic plan is the capability of having the right skills, the right talent. So they are aware of that. And probably the third dimension, the third underlying reason is the fact that people's expectation has changed, or relationship with the organization has changed. We see more and more people saying, I'm ready to quit, I'm ready to leave our organization, and they actually do that. The time frame has been reduced. All those items combined is basically transforming everything when it comes to the way we do things, the work, how we incorporate the technology, so the virtual reality, the stem cells, I don't know, tomorrow the quantum computing, that would be a major disruption. All this is transforming, or 3D printing. So this is changing. So that's probably the first step. And if probably as a way of approaching that, I would start once people understand how important it is to change and why we need to change. To your point, and answering your question, sorry, it's a long intro, is what should I do? Where should I start from? And obviously it will depend a lot with the organization. For some, they've got critical workforce segment that they are missing. They need to tackle that. I'm working with one client in the semiconductor industry. As you can imagine, it's a massive issue for them. They need to double production, and they've got a change in the skills. They used to be very much hardware type of expertise. Now it's much more software. How do I combine those? How do I make the most out of it? So in some cases, it's skills. In others, it would be the way we do work. How we do maintenance, how can we use 3D printing, how can I shift some of my offering to my clients. So this will depend on the on clients, and just trying to make the most of this, but maybe to give you some advice on the way to start that, and it's no silver bullet, unfortunately, but it's a series of ideas. I would probably tackle that in one of the 5 topics that I would highlight here. One of them is considering a shift from an employee-based, job-based organization to more of a skills-based organization. And just to explain what I mean by that is that your job is no longer what it's on paper. It's actually very different in the way you collaborate, the way you act, and you need that to be happening. And we're still running organization based on jobs instead of skills. Startups, to your point, are much more adaptable for that because they are not that big. They are not that structured as bigger organizations. So they can get inspiration from that, using the skills more as a driver for their workforce. And it means a lot of things. What kind of bridges can I make between different types of skills? To give you a very concrete example, I had one client in the aerospace industry. They had a lot of engineers working on motor engine and everything that need to shift. And they are in a full need of data scientists, data programming, and expert on that. Mm-hmm. And mind you, I mean, moving an engineer into a data scientist is not that complex. It's something that can happen in a matter of a few weeks. So they actually made that shift. So that's one example. I can go on for a lot of a long time, but I know we are short on time. I don't know if you want me to deep dive into other examples, other approaches, or if you want to ask other questions, because I've got a.
Maybe first of all, thank you so much for such a giving us like an overview of how everything is connected, from collaboration of employees remotely or on site to having the idea of having the right skill set compared to just fulfilling a job, and then everything combining, because also with the new remote work, there's more opportunities which are coming in the limelight. One interesting question, I will put it here because I think our audience is ranging from vast age group. So from boomers to millennials to Gen Z, how global workforce transformation you're seeing and how you collaborate these different age groups, because Gen Z might have a different mindset to millennials. So what is your take on that? Because this is also very interesting and very agnostic to all corporates.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I've got a strong belief, and maybe not everybody would agree with me. That's quite fine. But I do believe that we don't have anymore the generational differences as we used to have. Typically, generation were born from significant social marker that happened. So baby boomers after the World War II experiencing a high growth in Europe. But that generation is not the same in Asia, that hasn't experienced the same situation. We see the shift of some countries becoming much more structured, much more economically developed. So for them, it's a new time that would actually make a difference in the generation. So what is very interesting is that all population are facing the same type of issue and the same relationship. We'll see on the differences later on, but there is lots of commonalities in the way their work is changing, in the way the time frame is reduced, in the way we need more and more to be changing, to be adapting, in the way we have got a different expectation from corporation, that we want them to do good instead of just doing profit. So this you can see that as commonalities in all generation. Where you see differences, obviously, is that when you start working, you're very eager to learn. Maybe when you are older, you're very eager to give your knowledge back. And obviously, you don't have the same wealth expectation when you're at the beginning of your career or the end of your career, when you don't have children or you have children, when your children are young or old. So this would actually be drivers. But when it comes to digital approach, we see a lot of commonalities. And the key aspect is really to put all together this different generation. And just one thing to bear in mind, as I mentioned, we've got talent scarcity everywhere. At the same time, we've got a situation where skills are becoming obsolete at a fast rate, so we need to learn at all times. And third, people are living longer. Half of the workforce currently age 20 would live over 100. A Japanese born in 2007 would live until 107. So it means that they'll be working not until 60, but 65, 70, 75. So we're talking about a 40, 50, 60 year career, maybe not in the same traditional form as we see it, but people will be working and they are eager to that. And that will change. So we need to tackle all that. Long answer.
Perfect, perfect. So Philippe, as we have 1.5 minutes left for our fireside, maybe I'll conclude it and ask you to give us 1 or 2 future skills which you suggest to the 20 years old, 30 years old, because if they're living till 100, and then we have digitalization, robots coming in, so we might have less jobs as well. So what would be your 1 or 2 advice for our listeners, or also because we have corporate partners joining us, how the management can start changing and educating on the right skills?
Yeah, I think we should focus very much on what makes us human. So what are core competencies that, in our view, will be more difficult for robot or AI to replace us in? The ability to solve complex problems, the ability to communicate, to interact, to solve difficulties and things like that. All those are probably approaching new things, innovation. So changing the way we traditionally do things, disrupting. So that's probably key core competencies that we should focus on for our workforce, bearing in mind that we can basically find a machine, maybe it's not economically viable, but we can find a machine that can outpace any human in any given task. What is more difficult is outpacing human in 2 or 3 very different tasks. So running and solving a mathematical problem, for example, it's very different skills. So that's where us humans are better at.
So so the takeaway would be that we should focus more on what makes us human, and also our empathy, emotions, how we can strategically work together, make a comfort feeling for each other to work. Philippe, once again, thank you so much for your time. I'm 100% sure that our audience and myself will learn a lot from your discussion. And for all our participants, if you would like to connect with Philippe, please feel free to via LinkedIn. And thank you so much, Philippe, once again. And by that, I will hand it over back to Kim to walk us through the first section of our Innovation Day.
So actually, I want to reinforce what Philippe said before, because we actually, in our research, also realized that COVID was an accelerator of what we realized already happened before, which is a shift in desires from the workforce. And there's actually a survey that suggests at the moment that from 10,000 people that had been asked, around 92% of employees actually asked for at least 1 day of remote working per week, and 80% asked for at least 3 days of remote working. So this remote working is really going to stay. And if we add this to the fact that this new generation is the most tech-savvy generation, then we need to also acknowledge that they will expect the newest technologies to be readily available at the workplace. And in this case, it will be the newest remote work tech tools. It will be mental health support. It will be a clear training path. And for the employees that we already have, this can also be super interesting, because for all the high stress, high responsibility or high contact positions, the training will enable companies to keep the employee incentivized, because retaining that acquired talent, again, what Philippe also mentioned, is going to be tough. There is competition outside with other corporates, and next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be this great shift in knowledge where the employees that are the most experienced and needed right now are going to retire tomorrow. So with all this being said, how can then a company keep the employee close to the firm's heart? How can a company keep the employees incentivized to keep their know-how and expertise to be increasing? Well, we believe here at Plug and Play that the solution is to use VR as a tool for continuous learning and pre-engagement. And this is because we believe that using VR enables the employee to have this true office experience without needing to be physically there. So remote work, remote learning will be more personal, but also more personalized to the needs of the employee. And I want to throw in another quantitative fun fact. There is another study that actually suggests that if we use VR within a training path, it enables the employee to return 33% of more information in 4 times less time. And this can be done by the use of a few AI smart tools like gaze tracking, for example, where the headset will then pick up on when the employee loses their focus and reaccentuate the training, for example. But the most important question I want to ask here is, how can a corporation take advantage of VR on a daily basis to keep the employee engaged and incentivized to train on a continuous basis? So without further ado, I would like to introduce the startups that will be talking about employee engagement, continuous learning. So we have Aucta, Craftguide, and VRdirect. Thank you all three for joining. So I would give the floor to Henry from Aucta.
Hello, everyone. I'm Henry. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Aucta. And I'd like to talk to you about Aucta, which is a sustainable platform for product know-how. Now, quick background on us. We've been founded three years ago. We are based in Berlin, working with our tech team and the R&D team in Madrid. And we have a representation in the US. You can see a couple of our partners and our clients on this screen. So why do we do what we're doing? The reason why we're doing this is because of one of the many macro trends that we've just heard. And to understand how big that trend is, the number 20% is important to see. Now, 20%, that's the number of employees working in manufacturing that are going to retire until 2030. Now, what does that mean? That means industry companies will be not able to fill these positions one-to-one. And two, they will have less people having to do more and more different tasks to acquire new skills more quickly. Now, we believe that industry companies, and we know that industry companies are already sitting on the solution for this problem. Every industry company in the world constructs and basically visualizes what they produce in CAD already, so inside of digital drawing tools. Now, we believe that unlocking the power of these assets that they already own and bringing that together with the knowledge that they have and want to retain and share with existing and new workforce is the key to solving the big problem that is at hand. Now, we've built Aucta as a platform to easily capture and share product know-how in 3D as a web solution that works across devices. Now, what does Aucta look like? Aucta basically comprises of three different elements. There's a manager element that allows you to very easily set up and manipulate the existing visualizations. There's an editor, which is fully no code, which means anyone can use it and create a visualization within minutes, then can be deployed via web link. Such a web link is instantly live because Aucta lives in the web and in the cloud. So any changes that I'm making are instantly pushed to anyone that already has access to this visualization. Now, what you can see here is that you can share this via a web link, via QR code that you can generate from our system, or you can directly pull an iframe from our system that you can then integrate into your website or landing page that you may want to use to talk about your products. Now, we believe that enabling the 95% of the company that typically don't touch these types of assets is the way to go. Because what we can do with this is we can enable the knowledge expert, the person inside of the organization that has the knowledge at the time, to capture the knowledge in 3D, which is the most intuitive way to talk and look at these things. It also means we unlock the data treasure that is typically locked away inside of R&D or engineering in these companies. And it is a cost breakthrough because the efficiency and the ease of using a no-code tool like ours makes it possible that you can actually internalize this kind of system. Now, what are the main use cases that our customers use? First of all, training and upskilling of employees. You can see how this can be used very easily to transfer knowledge to new and existing employees. Remote servicing and maintenance, enabling your customers and your employees to better and more quickly understand what to do in the case of a remote servicing. Remotely selling, so enabling your employees and your customers to better understand your products digitally. And last but not least, supporting your customers and your partners to understand and handle your machines at hand. Now, how do we do this remotely? Not only can you consume an Aucta visualization via web link at whatever time that you want to, but with the click of a button, you can actually share an Aucta visualization and then jump into the collaborative mode, which allows you to guide somebody through and be guided through so that you can easily share that knowledge in a remote and digital way. Now, let me give you some of the numbers that we've achieved with our customers over time in the last 3 years. So for example, Jungheinrich already launches products to their global sales force with our platform. In one of the first events, they have spent more than 80 hours on the launch day itself in our visualizations and used the moderation feature with more than 180 participants at the same time. Or looking at Ceramtech, who's using our platform in the sales department and sees a reduction in time to order of up to 80%. Now, we believe that 3D and Aucta's 3D solution is a key element for the future of work, because customers will want to engage with your products in 3D already at the point where they get first interested into you on your website, on any asset that they can touch. It will help companies better, more digitally, and more sufficiently sell digitally. They don't have to go to their clients anymore, but they're able to do it immediately. They're going to be able to much quicker and more efficiently onboard new and existing employees and customers to their products. And last but not least, they're going to be able to help both their customers as well as their employees better understand what to do with their products in a remote and sustainable way. Now, I invite you guys to connect with me afterwards, and let's build the future of work together.
Thank you very much, Henry. That was super interesting. Actually, as a question, I wanted to ask, could you emphasize, so from the 3D modeling until the employee or the end user could use that model, is there a time frame that you could give? And what's your answer? Just for the audience, you will now see a poll, whether you'd like or not to get introduced to Aucta after the event.
So the typical answer would be minutes. So we've built Aucta as a tool that actually can compete to the efficiency of, let's say, using a Word document, creating a PowerPoint, taking a couple of pictures, documenting something with your phone. And the reason why this is because the editor can be very easily learned by anyone who's never touched 3D, because it is fully no code, and on the surface it looks and feels very easy to do. And we're using simply standard formats, so there's nothing special that anybody has to do to their models or to or a special skill set that they have to give to the person who's supposed to use it. It works in the existing infrastructure. It is a platform that works across devices, so it typically works on your smartphone, laptop. It can work in VR, it can work in AR. So whenever the company is ready, they have a database that's already working.
Cool, that sounds super fascinating. Thank you, Henry. Then thank you again, Aucta. Thank you again, Henry. And I'd say it's time for the next pitch. So I would like to invite Adrian from Craftguide.
My name is Adrian Indefrei. I'm CFO of Craftguide. And we believe that the way manual work is done today can be made in a more efficient and more effective way. As we heard in the fire chat discussion, nobody wants to read paper manuals, or especially the generation Instagram and TikTok. So we created a platform where you can have those step-by-step workflows, yeah, anytime, everywhere you need it. And on the other side, schoolings are quite more difficult to take place during COVID. So our customers, the manufacturers of parts and products, have a difficulty with the new, more digitalized tools coming in to get that information to the craftsmen or the service technicians. So what we do, we have a multi-platform concept where we can reach the trainee, for example, in a schooling environment, and where they can also share these information. So when you have a schooling, if you look, for example, on the knowledge distribution, so what knowledge do you have after a few hours, after a few days, this dramatically decreases. Yeah, so giving the information they got schooled with on their hand, so they can redo it when they need it. This is one of our key things we can accomplish with our solution. And also having like a multi-platform approach, so you can use this on a smartphone, on a web player to integrate it, but you can also use it in VR, AR. So this device that suits to your use case, you can use that to display the information. We have a standardized approach for these workflows. So you can either use classical video content, you can use 3D content. So it doesn't matter what kind of data input you use. Yeah, if you use CHD data, or if you use like a mobile phone camera to document a workflow. Also, we have a support for 42 different languages, so it's multilingual. It makes it very easy on the manufacturing side, for example, to switch the languages when the help worker, for example, cannot speak German or cannot speak English, or has a better understanding in their own language. So what we do is we have all the informations to complete the tasks they want to do and they need to do. And because we are here mostly with the InsurTech, I want to show you a use case we've done with AUVA, the General Accident Insurance Institution of Austria, and how they use Craftguide to do security schulungs on a circular saw globally in Austria. And I will switch to a short video.
Einstellungen innerhalb des Gefahrenbereiches nur bei Werkzeugstillstand.
So sorry for that, that
Schiebehilfen
it's
verwenden.
German, but
Dies
you
gilt auch
can
für das Entfernen von Splittern, Spänen und Abfällen.
You can show like the security issues, what you
Schiebestock
have
verwenden,
to
einen Kontakt zum
take care
Sägeblatt
about. I
auszuschließen.
will just make it a little bit less loud, so I can talk a little bit.
Während des Betriebs ist die
So
Hauptarbeit
after
Achtung,
your schoolings, when you are at your work, you already know you've done this workflow like many times. So you can school without any risk. Yeah, you can school difficult tasks, for example.
Alle Eingaben während des Trainings erfolgen im folgenden Kurs wird das Besäumen mit Besäumschuh und Besäumhilfe gezeigt. Darauf achten, dass das Werkstück satt aufliegt und nicht wackelt.
So you get the information you need how to do the specific work step.
Das Werkstück an dem Besäumschuh anlegen. Die hintere Besäumhilfe am Werkstückende platzieren, das Werkstück während des Sägevorgangs gegen den Besäumschuh zu drücken und zu fixieren.
And you'll be really guided through the process.
Auswählen. Die Sägeblatthöhe auf 70 mm stellen und bestätigen. Die Sägeblattfahrt auszulösen, den Bestätigungsknopf drücken.
So I think you've got an idea about that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. For everyone in the audience, again, the poll, don't forget it. Does anyone have a question? Okay, because I had actually, so when, how long would you say does it take for a company to implement that VR educational technology? And if so, do you have the specific challenge when working with corporates and integrating such technology within the training?
Because we have a standardized approach, it's quite easy to do these workflows in a short amount of time. So if we identify a use case with our client, it takes about 2 to 4 weeks to implement that, and then they can use it in their trainings and their schoolings. Second question is if you have any specific difficulties. I think every use case is a little bit different. Yeah, so we take really care to understand the use case the customer wants to use it in. Yeah, and find a perfect solution for him or her.
Okay, and would you say when you try to work with those corporations, are the employees very, very into that kind of technology, or would you say is it the C-level who's a bit more redundant to integrate such a thing, or are both parties very interested and curious?
So they are also different manufacturers, I would say. They are the ones who are more innovators and going forward. And they're ones they say we did it all the time like this, and we will do it like this again. But all over, we get a really good response on the one side from the C-level, but also from the employees and also from the service technicians and craftsmen that use the solutions of the manufacturer. So this is a third party using the solution.
Okay, well, Thank you very much, Adrian. It was very fun to watch that video. I think I speak for the entire audience when I say this. And I'd say it's time to move to the last speaker of this section for today, Carsten, Chief Marketing Officer of VRdirect. The floor is yours.
Kim, thank you so much for the opportunity to pitch here in this environment. Initially, my colleague Torben should be here and speaking for us, but he's still traveling and has a bit delay. So I'm jumping in. I'm Carsten from VRdirect. We are the enterprise virtual reality solution. And as we all know, virtual reality is a big part of the metaverse. And the metaverse is really, really big. So McKinsey and also Accenture are estimating a market value of about 5 trillion, 100 billion. So big figures jumping around. And there are several or many use cases floating in the metaverse, starting from NFT stuff, but more interesting for us is the things like Kim already mentioned, working together, XR work, VR tourism, sales meetings, so people coming together, of course, onboarding tours and stuff like this. So for us, the metaverse is really diverse and has a lot of use cases that we want to jump in with you in the next few minutes. But before I get to this, so we see ourselves as the metaverse enabler for enterprises. This means we're really strongly focusing on the B2B perspective of the metaverse. So it's all about working together, learning together, and of course, experience different kind of things. So also the people talking up front had all these kind of experiences showing to you guys. So our vision is really to enable enterprises for the metaverse. And with our solution, this is really done easily, it's scalable, and we are enterprise ready. But now I told a lot about use cases. So what's VRdirect in a nutshell? You can imagine our solution a little bit like PowerPoint. Oh, sorry, I was just irritated because this said like my presentation wasn't shown, but I hopefully you all see my screen. So what is VRdirect in a nutshell? It's something like you can imagine like PowerPoint. So you have this kind of building your own VR project within the VRdirect studio. It's very easily, you just drag and drop 360 videos or 360 photos into our platform. You can then add overlays, add navigations or link outs, whatever you want. And it's no code. It's really just drag and drop. It's a very visual kind of editing. And your end result is something like a 3D website or a great VR experience. Then you can, of course, manage all the projects that you've created. You can share them with links, with QR codes, with emails. You can grant access, deny access. You can comment on your project. It's pretty much like PowerPoint, like I said. And then, of course, it's going into the distribution. And there's a great USP from our platform that we are really natively integrated in the big metaverse platforms. So we have native apps for Meta, Pico, HTC, and of course the upcoming ones that are still in the pipeline and everybody knows what we are talking about. But we also support web browser integration. So you can embed our or your project very easily into your intranet or a website or whatever you want to. And we also have an iOS and Android app. So you can also share your project on these devices. So not only like on the iPhone or on a tablet, so every device running on iOS and Android. And when we're now looking into the use cases I mentioned before, what we've done so far are use cases in the event branch, sales and marketing, but a strong focus at the moment is on, like Kim said before, on really onboarding, on having this kind of experience that you're remotely working, but some kind of office feeling is still there. And we are really focusing on enabling the everyday use case. So not the complex ones like surgery training, military flight simulations. So this is not what we are focusing on. We are really focusing on you guys have your materials and you can easily distribute the projects. We already did this with a lot of blue chip companies. So you see Nestle here, down there, you see Henkel, Porsche, Siemens, but focusing on the insurance branch, we worked pretty closely with the banking sector, so Sparkasse, for example, German regional banks, or Credit Plus, realized some project with us. They showcased their facilities and also had the link outs to their virtual projects. And like Kim said before, Nestlé is using it for onboard their new employees and show them around the headquarters in Geneva and give them these taste of what is it to work with Nestlé. Interviews with the CEO, HR department and stuff, all integrated here. So we are trying really to be the de facto standard for VR projects at also at DAX companies. And that's it pretty much. So thank you very much. We do have a free version on our website. So check out VRdirect.com. You can find all the use cases there as well. And that's pretty cool. So check it out. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
And of course, the voting poll. That way we can introduce you guys to the VRdirect team. Carsten, thank you so much. I mean, you talked a lot about use cases. Could you, if possible, elaborate on a potential use case you might imagine that is specifically pertinent or interesting for the insurance corporate partners that we have today in the audience?
Yes, of course. So you always need to send out your workforce to find out specific use cases. So like shown before, there are some risks in facilities. You put solar panels on the roofs. How is this improving the risk for the whole housing structure? So there are different kind of ways that you need to figure out, and you can of course use our platform to build a very unique training for your workforce. So we did this with other clients before that we showed around, for instance, a clean room, and there's a fire alarm, and you need to find the quickest way out of the clean room. And you can of course imagine this for an insurance company as well, so that you have a building and you need to find the risks in the building or stuff like this. So this is pretty much hands-on. And of course, the great creativity, there's no limit. So we are always happy to discuss these kind of things with you guys.
Honestly, it sounds fantastic. From the perspective of someone who's a new hire, if this is the future as to employee onboarding and training, etc., I'm all for it. Does anyone from the audience
maybe Kim, you asked the question before on how long would it take to realize a project? Actually, if you do have your 360 video or photo material at hand, we pitch that it won't take you longer than 24 hours.
That sounds really good. Well, Carsten, thank you so much. To the audience, does anyone from you have a question right now? Carsten, again, VRdirect, thank you so much. Aucta, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Let's move on to the next topic. So, Hissan.
So for the next segment, as we have a little bit time pressure, so I will move maybe faster. Just for all the audience that the session which we are having today will be shared with our corporate partners. Also for the startups that we are recording the whole session, which we will be sharing with our corporate partners and also on our social media accounts. So you will be hearing a lot from our partners, hopefully. So for this next second part, we have collaboration tools and data security. Quickly, what we see and what we were also discussing with Philippe, with all the startups, that there were existing approaches pre-COVID era as well. We had Skype, we had Zoom, we had Google Meets, but due to COVID, due to the remote working environment, this has been accelerated. And with the technological advancement which comes with VR and AR technologies, it has been in the presence more and more. For the collaboration part, if somebody has maybe a curiosity that why we are driving towards more digital collaborations, what we saw in the current trends that a lot of employees, especially as we were discussing with like Gen Z, they want to have more freedom of working from anywhere because skills are not defined by being on premise only. So there's a huge demand from the employees to have more flexible and more collaborative models to work. Then the digital capabilities. So we are driving towards an era that a decade ago, we didn't have that sophisticated infrastructures to enable the VR, AR collaborative technologies. But now, as we also already saw 3 startups and we're going to see more startups, that we are more accelerating towards the technological advancement in the VR and the AR capabilities. Last but not the least, as a population going forward, we are more tech savvy, and also we are more digitally sound in when it comes to using Oculus, using any other device which enables us to be more collaborated and having the more, let's say, virtual or the metaverse feeling. What we can see from the VR technologies, a value add could be that we have more gamification opportunities, as we saw with our startups, which were pitching, that there could be a metaverse solution that you enter the branch of a bank, and then you don't even have to leave your house, but all your workflows, they go on hand in hand. So there should be an element of gamification, real-time behavior analysis between how people are reacting to different scenarios. And I'm sure that in the next couple of years, we will see very personalized, very tailored solution for each individual in the metaverse and the virtual reality. Before I invite our startups, we would like to touch the area of cybersecurity. As we have a lot of collaboration working globally, somebody is joining from their house, somebody is joining from the office, somebody from one part of the world, the cybersecurity element is something which is always the need of the time to have more secure infrastructure. And just to quote some numbers, only in 2022, the world faced $6 trillion loss in when it comes to cyber attacks. And every 39 seconds, there is estimated that there is one cyber attack happening somewhere. So in this course of our session, you can imagine how many cyber attacks were there, which we're trying to implement, and still we are going. So to build these such secure infrastructures around, we also have startups who will be showcasing how we can be safe. But lastly, for the accepted consequences which we see, we really need new safety standards when it comes to cybersecurity for collaborating in the metaverse, in the virtual reality. We need employee awareness and their training. And last but not the least, we need more practice and more cautious when we are logging into the digital spaces. So without further ado, I would like to invite and introduce three startups, Philippe and Vispa, which are more focusing on the collaboration tools. And then we have QuantiCor for data security. So I would like to invite Anne from Philippe. Anne, are you with us here?
Yes. Hi, everyone. And thank you, Hissan, for the introduction to the topic. So Hissan, I really like the introduction that you gave because it's a lot about what we are doing at Philippe, actually. My name is Anne and I am CMO at Philippe. I'm super happy to be here today and to present to you the app changing deskless work. Before I give you an overview of the topic, just 2 sentences on Philippe. We're headquartered in Stuttgart. We have offices in Berlin, in Cologne, and also in London. We are about 150 employees, and we got just featured in the Gartner Cool Vendor Report for HCM. Also, we do have some customers already. Some of the logos might look familiar to you. We work with a lot of big companies in manufacturing, such as Porsche, Mahle, but also Magna and Bosch. We work with retailers like Rewe and Tom and Rossmann, and we do have McDonald's as an example also for the hospitality here. And to understand what we're doing, let's have a look at this slide. On the left side, you can see you and I sitting in front of a computer. We're basically always connected. We're always on. We can work from anywhere and everywhere. And we do have company devices such as smartphones and computers. And on the other side, you can see a guy called, let's call him Joe. Joe works on the shop floor and he is never connected. He works in an environment with bad reception and hence he also doesn't have company devices. And if we have a closer look at Joe's day, then he communicates via WhatsApp and Facebook with his company and his colleagues. He never wrote an official email like we do all the time. And he is very little involved in digitization and in change. And a day in his life could look like this. He comes into his assembly line or into the shop in the mornings. And the first thing he do is he accesses information through his supervisor. He then walks over to the bulletin board to check his shifts. And as he wants to go on leave on Friday, he hands in a leave request via pen and paper. It's also the end of the month, so he receives his pay slips via letter delivered to his mailbox at home. And there's new processes to be implemented, so he walks into the break room to check out the manuals and trainings that are stored in folders there. So to sum up his challenges, a day in his life there's very limited access to information for Joe. He's faced with inefficient processes, and he also puts data at risk. And now you might say, hey, this is just Joe working on the shop floor in some assembly line or in some shop, in some outlet. But actually, this is 80% of global workforce. So 80% of global workforce work in a deskless environment and hence in an offline first environment. And this is what we're changing. So today, Joe works offline, and tomorrow he's connected. He's connected to his company, and he can access all information from his own device, and he can find all the tools that he needs for his daily life. So we're bringing the entire company to your employee's pocket. And I brought you one example. So in the case of McDonald's, we call that the Mac OS. So we start off with communication and information. We can share information in a news feed. You can chat with your colleagues. So you have vertical and horizontal information communication. But then also we integrated pay slips, shift plans, and further shop floor use cases. And so really the employee app becomes the front end for deskless employees. And this is what we're doing. I am happy to talk to you and looking forward to the exchange and to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. So as Kim was reminding everyone, there would be a poll now. If you would like to get in touch with Philippe, please do let us know. So, and maybe some questions from our side. Also, some people shared the questions with us. How do you tackle, because for example, you mentioned that there's a lot of like us who are writing emails, we are much familiar with the process, also the management. And then comes the blue collar workforce, which do not have more access to the digital means, for example. So how do you guys make sure that the upper management understand that there is a challenge there, or there is a need for such a solution?
You're referring to C-level, I guess?
Exactly.
So let's take the CEO, for example. A CEO's job today already is to communicate. His job is to communicate with external stakeholders, but also to communicate with internal stakeholders. So for C-level, whose main job it is to make sure that information reach the right people, I think this is an obvious choice to introduce a tool like Philippe, or a tool that kind of brings digitization also to the shop floor and doesn't just keep it in the office buildings. Yeah.
Awesome. And maybe one more question on the flip side. So a lot of the blue collar employees or workers, how do you train them to use this digital technology? Like, do you also have any kind of knowledge base, or how does that training works?
That's a great question, Hisan, and very happy to give an answer to that. So I think the key to getting these workers and these employees on board is to give them a tool that is very easy and intuitive to use. And so you don't want to introduce a tool where you need 4 hours of training to onboard your workers and to make them understand how to navigate a product. And that's why one of our core philosophies is to keep it simple. And actually the app is so easy and intuitive to use that, even my grandma, I gave this app to my grandma. She knows where to click because she knows WhatsApp and she knows WhatsApp, right? So she knows where to click when she wants to send a chat or when she wants to get access to information. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's customer experience, customer interaction. This is something which you guys are mainly targeting, and because those are the real customers you have. Thank you so much, Anne, for pitching us regarding Philippe. So with that, I would like to invite now Cornelius from Vispa.
I'm Cornelius. I'm one of the co-founders of Vispa. Just like Philippe, we are based in Stuttgart in Germany. And today I'm going to use the 5 minutes to give you a speed run through our app, because we figured out quite early that we can't pitch our product in a PowerPoint presentation. So right now we're in Vispa. I'm gonna start a timer. No, I can't access that because there's the overlay. So we are in Vispa here. I brought my colleague Manuel next to me. So as you can see, Vispa is a 3D collaboration app. We are very passionate about new work and collaboration. And in my quick demo speed run, I'm gonna touch on a few things, challenge the status quo, and hopefully get you excited about the future of work. So I think we've heard a lot about new work today. For us, we often hear the same discussion about new work, where it's people focus on the question, do people work at home or at the office? And then that's the whole discussion. For us, and also I think if companies want to stay innovative and want to challenge their competition, the question should more about how people work and not where they work, because once you focus on the how, the where can become almost irrelevant. So for us at Vispa, collaboration is key to everything. It's key to innovation, because without collaboration, there is no innovation. And also without collaboration, companies can't manage to have successful projects. But how does the status quo look like? I mean, we all know it. Most of the time, companies say they are collaborating, and what they are doing is basically this, using Microsoft Teams. But we think they are mistaking communication for collaboration. Communication is important, but a video call is not a collaboration format. A call is just a call. We often have just one person doing all the talking, making the decisions. At least 50% are zoned out. They have their cameras shut off. And we quite early, we wondered why that was. So we figured out it was, and it's something that you already touched today, it's the lack of engagement. So in terms of collaboration, engagement is what keeps everyone motivated. As you can see, Manuel is very motivated now. He's cheering and he's clapping. It's what keeps people involved. It's also what kind of brings fun to the whole project or to the workshop. And we believe that engagement is what needs to be behind every successful workshop. So Vispa focuses a lot on engagement and is also optimized for engagement. So as we move along, I want to show you a couple of things just to show you what engagement means at Vispa. I'll zoom out a bit. So obviously you could already see, if I turn around, this is a 3D space. This is much more than just an online whiteboard. You have a space where you can interact. You can see I can talk to Manuel here. We've got voice over IP integrated. We've got avatars, so I'm more than just a mouse cursor here. I have a body, I can cheer, I can walk around. I have the complete freedom to move. Plus, we have everything included that you already know from all the other tools. So we've got nodes, we've got shapes with icons, we've got 3D objects. Since we're a 3D tool, we can easily just integrate 3D objects. We've got boards, so basically everything you need, as well as votings and timers. We've got that, and having the avatars, having everything in the space, having it very easily, just drag and drop in our tool, gets people excited, makes it easy for them to collaborate as a group again. And if I want to just talk to Manuel on my own, in just 2 clicks, I've created a breakout session here. Stuff that we know from Zoom, but in Zoom you get kicked out and stuff like that. It's a lot of friction there. In Vispa, you can just do 2 clicks, copy paste the group, and basically set up your whole space. And now Manuel is moving along, so I immediately understand he's somewhere else. He can't hear me. He can work on his topic. I can work on mine. And that's everything we stand for: full transparency, full visibility, because that gets people engaged and excited to work together. So what are the main use cases of Vispa? Say hello to our CEO, Sebastian, over there. Main use cases of Vispa are obviously virtual workshops, but also innovation projects, and basically every virtual project is perfect for Vispa. Agile coaches and Scrum Masters love it as well because it brings so much more excitement into their group work and into their projects. But basically everything you can think of where you say, oh, prior to COVID, we had a room and we used it for that. You can do that in Vispa. And yeah, we talked a lot about engagement and maybe how people and companies now are lacking engagement. I do have some good news for you. So you don't have to wait for Vispa to arrive. It's already here. And as opposed to other, let's say, virtual tools, Vispa is optimized for business laptops. So you don't need VR hardware because we believe that every employee should have access to tools like that. And they shouldn't be excluded just because they don't have a 500 euro headset flying around at home. So that is that. We've already onboarded a lot of clients from basically all the big industries like automotive, pharmaceutical, logistics, telecommunication. Plus, we've also already entered a POC with one of the world's biggest insurance companies. So my final question to you is, if you reflect on everything I said and you reflect on your company and how you are working, I would like to ask you, are you ready? Or are your employees still mouse cursors on a boring whiteboard? Because I can basically guarantee you that Trevor and Leslie and Jules are definitely not as engaged as Manuel is. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the question. Thanks for your time and thank you.
Very, very interactive presentation. So kudos to you and also to Manuel from our side. We have a question here. So somebody, okay, so before I jump into the questions, now for the audience, you have on your screen the poll. If you would like to get in touch with Vispa. And so we have one question: how do you differentiate yourself compared to companies like Met in VR? That's one question.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's asking that if they can get a demo. So maybe I squeeze that in one question. How you differentiate yourself with companies which are offering more metaverse solutions?
Mm-hmm.
How easy for a corporate is to have Vispa? So do they have to download like a file and then install everything, or it's more like virtual, like Miro, for example? We see a lot of collaborations with Miro.
Mm-hmm.
So how easy it is, and if you guys are also working or planning to work with Slack, Miro to have more collaborations, faster collaborations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was a lot of questions bundled into one. So I basically already forgot a bunch of them, but let me try to figure it out. So to the audience, demo is possible. Just go to our website, vispa.io, then you can book a call with us. In terms of differentiation to other tools, I mean, I touched on the topic of VR as a technical solution and as the hardware and the metaverse solution. So for us, it's important to kind of bridge the gap between what people have learned in the past 2 years, which is Miro and Mural and so on, to the, let's say, the future solutions, where we still feel like I said, the hardware is still not there yet. In most of the companies, you have like 6 VR headsets flying around the C-level, plus the innovation manager, they have that, but the normal employee doesn't have access to it. And they also don't have a gaming PC. So that's why we focused on the devices that are out there and feel like we need to teach the people or kind of open the door to 3D collaboration first, and then they can jump into like the bigger picture, which is still kind of vague, to be honest, to see what is coming. Yeah, and in terms of integrations, the good thing is, I mean, I didn't show you all the tools. You can just import a browser in Vispa, so you can technically just import your Miro board into Vispa and work on it in the 3D space, or just use it because you used it for quick brainstorming. But like I said, I think all the tools have their purpose. What we found out is that if you give people a space again, they feel connected, they feel like they are part of the team, and especially in a hybrid setup where 50% are at home and 50% are in the same room. Right now, the 50% who are at home are always kind of disconnected because the real meeting is not happening where they are. And with Vispa, that kind of shifts. So the meeting or the workshop is happening in the virtual space, and it doesn't matter where you access it from.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Cornelius, once again. Also, big thanks to Manuel. He was very, we really enjoyed the pitch. So
Okay.
With that, I would move to the last pitch. I just want to maybe summarize the 5 startups we saw, and we would really appreciate your input on how to make everything secure, because you see a lot of collaboration approaches, tools, and you know the risk associated. So again, maybe if you can also a little bit like at the end focus on how we can make everything bring together under a very secure cloud. So now the stage is yours.
My name is Rashid, and I'm the managing director of QuantiCor Security. And we are a team based in Darmstadt that is developing and providing cryptographic and cybersecurity solutions that protect from powerful attacks, such as quantum computer attacks. And in the last years, we convinced many juries and also won several renowned awards, and furthermore established the first standard for quantum safe encryption. So we have many years of experience in this domain, and now today we want to present very unique solutions for your companies, which is called PQ Vault, and it is an innovative encryption infrastructure. But first of all, we have companies that are facing many pains when it comes to security. On the one hand, we have the data that is going to be secured. On the other hand, we have users that are producing and interacting with those confidential data. And moreover, we have applications that are used by the users and services in order to store and process data. For instance, from the companies from insurance and healthcare sectors are daily processing and sending highly confidential data that have very long life cycles. They need also to be protected against quantum computer attacks. And these data usually include financial, medical, or personal data, as well as confidential IP. On the other hand, we have users and developers that are in large amounts with no background in security, but what they need is a simple and intuitive tool that does all the security for them. And with a PQ Vault, we want to solve this solution. We target all these pains at once and provide an encryption service that does all the work for them or for you. It is provided as a graphical user interface where users can right-click on a file to encrypt or sign a confidential document. And you have a lot of features. For instance, you can assign policies as to who is able to encrypt the document, or you can also assign dates when the document can be encrypted in a future time and point. So PQ Vault is also provided as an SDK with very simple functions for developers. So they do not need to care about how the security works. They just invoke the encrypt or assign functions in order to encrypt a multitude of various types, which are typically used in companies such as JSON files or databases. And as already said, all the security and key management is handled by the encryption infrastructure itself. A representative use case is secure cloud storage. So since you always wish your data to be kept secret within the cloud, it is possible to use PQ Vault to encrypt data before it is persistently stored in any of those clouds that are publicly available. So you can also always add and change permissions at any time as who is able and when to decrypt the documents or data. And only with the right permissions, the data is decrypted once it enters the own infrastructure. And we provide multiple layers of securities where your data never leaves your own infrastructure or device. And furthermore, we provide, in addition to classical security, a layer of quantum computer resistance, which helps to protect against quantum adversaries, which are able to break all the currently applied crypto systems, asymmetric crypto systems. And moreover, the user can define specific policies and which are relevant in many scenarios, as the receivers who are able to decrypt, or groups who are able to decrypt data, or which is also used to define specific time points, for instance, for contracts or offerings, when specific elements are being decrypted. But you can also assign a 2FA requirement to your highly confidential documents, such as the users need to use their smartphones as a second factor in order to decrypt and open documents. But there are many more security features which are provided by PQ Vault. And this solution is based on many years of observations, I must admit. And it tries to solve all the aforementioned pains and problems in one solution. First of all, it does not need to change the infrastructure of the company itself. It can be installed, for instance, the graphic user interface in 1 minute, and it is very intuitive for any user and developer. And all the security, in fact, is handled by the encryption infrastructure. So no care about handling when to use a key or how to store a key, etc. This is everything of this kind of management is done by the service itself. And it furthermore provides a multitude of fine-grained security features for the different use cases that you target. And this fine-grained security is also granted in an intuitive way so that users and developers can use them easily for their security needs. And it is perfectly, for instance, suited to all the use cases within the insurance, finance, or healthcare sectors. And finally, I want to ask you if you like this solution and also like QuantiCor. So then do not hesitate to contact us. We can also plan a demo which takes at most 15 to 20 minutes. So thank you very much for your attention and stay safe.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rashid. So we have so again, for everyone, there's a poll. And if you would like to be in touch with QuantiCor Security, please let us know and we will make an introduction. So Dr. Rashid, concluding also the Innovation Day here, listening to the pitches of the startups, and again, I'm sure a lot of corporates you work with might be having this challenge where a lot of their employees are hybridly working. So what is your stance on making secure the collaborations, or more the digital collaborations of the employees?
So an important aspect of distributed working, of course, is how this is established. A lot of data which is highly confidential or company relevant, that means it really the company's success and business operations is based on the security or confidentiality of those data, such as development data or many years of IP that is generated. It is very important that this data and information is kept secret for a long time. Otherwise, people and companies may get into touch with it and can reuse it and make the company non-existing at the end of the day. So therefore, security plays a major role when trying to be distributed, especially in these times where Corona or COVID-19 is omnipresent. So therefore, it is important to make right decisions with respect to security. First of all, to identify which aspects are being exchanged in a way that requires, for instance, internet access or requires physical presence. And to identify all the assets is an important aspect, so that one can go in the next step and try to find the right solutions in order to secure those assets that need to be secured at the end of the day. And one way which we try to help with is with PQ Vault, where you can flexibly use this solution. Either if you want to send emails, for instance, you can encrypt the data, define specific policies, who is able to decrypt the data, etc., and then send it per email. And no one, and even quantum computers, cannot crack this file. And furthermore, for developers, if the use case for the company itself is very huge and complex, one can develop own procedures and processes, which includes a specific usage of security in order to satisfy the security needs that the company imposes on each application or on each asset.
Maybe just one last comment from your side. What we saw in our analysis, that around 70 to 80% of the cyber attacks are due to human error. So do you, as at QuantiCor, also provide employee trainings to better understand how to be secure, or it's just you're only providing more of an infrastructure? And so is there any ways of corporates also educating their employees, and you guys can support there?
So what we do is we support, of course, employees in the sense of solution-based. That means, for instance, using specific solutions or using specific tools where we can help with. In general, what we do is also we help with the transitioning to quantum computer resistance, to understand the threats that are coming from future technologies such as quantum computers or AI, whatsoever, what you may think of, and how to get from an unsecured environment into a secured one. And there we help the right persons with it, and how they can train their own employees, so in order to be secure. So we go a little bit further in the sense that we help the employees or specific cluster of employees within a company to understand how to educate the other employees in the teams, or to write guidelines.
Perfect. Sounds good. Dr. Rashid, thank you so much once again. I would like to thank Philippe for the fireside chat. Very, very interesting conversation, understanding how the global workforce are changing. And then I would very, very much likely to thank all our startups for the participation. And also, last but not the least, to all the participants of today's event. We, as Plug and Play, are hosting such events every month, every second month. We will be having next month another innovation day on the topic of super apps. So please stay tuned, and would be very happy to see you all again. So I wish you all a good evening, and thank you so much.